My best friend stole my partner, so I exposed them at the wedding. This is my full story, start to finish. Mark and I met in 6th grade, two kids kicking a torn soccer ball around a cracked park field after school. He was loud, fast, always first to try the stupid dare. I was quiet, the kid who fixed the class computer and hauled a library book everywhere. He played forward, I played defense, it made sense. Through middle school and high school we were attached at the hip. He joined varsity soccer, I joined robotics and band. On Friday nights he scored goals. On Saturday mornings I soldered circuits. Then we'd spend the rest of the weekend gaming, talking about the futures we were sure we would dominate. He said he would run something big one day, I said I would build the software that powered it. We promised to be best men at each other's weddings. Back then, I believed it. By college, we were roommates. I studied computer science, pulling all-nighters at the campus help desk and freelancing small coding gigs for pizza money. Mark majored in business and bartended at a busy downtown spot, the kind of place where he could remember 6 drink orders and 3 birthdays while flirting with half the room. He had a calendar full of intramural soccer and networking nights. I had text editors, algorithms, and a part-time job replacing cracked screens in the IT basement. We balanced each other. He dragged me to parties, I dragged him through spreadsheets. Then there was Emily. She sat 2 rows behind me in an intro psych elective. She always had a camera strapped crossbody, the kind with a faded fabric strap covered in tiny stitched flowers. She remembered people's names. She made eye contact. She asked questions and waited for answers. She took photos at campus rallies and edited them in the student union until midnight. We started talking after class about books, then about family, then about what life might look like if we ever got out of our hometowns for good. She came to a pickup soccer game to photograph Mark's team, then joined us for diner coffee afterward. I fell fast. Sophomore year we were a couple. At first it felt perfect. Emily did photo gigs for student clubs, I showed her my code projects and she teased me for nomming my scripts like pets. Mark said I had finally leveled up and called her a keeper. The 3 of us watched bad movies on our tiny couch. She came to his matches and screamed herself hoarse. We took a winter trip to a frozen lake with friends and all squeezed into a cheap cabin. There's a photo of that trip where Mark has his arm around both of us, grinning like the world belonged to him, and I'm leaning into Emily, believing it did. Cracks came quietly, inside jokes that didn't include me. We were just talking about that one thing, they would say, then change the subject. Emily picked up extra shifts at the coffee shop during midterms, then rolled in at 1 a.m. saying the manager kept her late. Mark stopped telling me about bartending stories and said he was too tired to talk. One night I noticed a new contact in Emily's phone labeled manager. Later, that exact contact was gone. When I asked, she said I was imagining it. Another time Mark came back from a so-called networking event smelling like her perfume. I started missing cues at work. I closed a help desk ticket without backing up a professor's research and got chewed out. My boss kept asking if I was okay. I said I was fine and didn't sleep for 2 nights. I tried to confront them once gently. I told Emily I felt left out when she and Mark had conversations that stopped when I walked in. She took my hand, looked me in the eye and said, "You are paranoid. Mark is like your brother. Stop inventing problems." Later, Mark clapped me on the shoulder and said, "You are spiraling, man. Chill." I walked away telling myself they were right. The truth didn't ask permission. It walked in on a Tuesday. Jacob, a friend from high school who knew our whole history, called me around 10. He said, "I'm downtown near the Hilton. I just saw Emily and Mark walking together, not friends, together. I didn't even grab a jacket. I drove there on autopilot. In the lot, I saw Mark's car. I sat there, hands locked on the wheel, willing it to be a mistake. Then they came out through the sliding doors, laughing, shoulder to shoulder. Emily's hand slid into his without even thinking. He leaned close and said something that made her tilt her head the way she used to do with me. It felt like someone pressed a cold palm through my rib cage and squeezed. I confronted them in the glow of the hotel sign. "Really, my best friend, my girlfriend?" Emily's face collapsed. "It was nothing," she said. "It just happened. It didn't mean anything." Mark stared at a dark spot on the pavement and said we should talk another time. That night I packed Emily's things into a duffel. I texted Mark that we were done, then I blocked them both and moved through the next months like a pale imitation of a person. Work, gym, sleep, repeat, therapy, repeat. Dr. Lin, my therapist, gave me rules: eat 3 times a day, go outside once, code for an hour just for me. The habits rescued me an inch at a time. I took a junior dev role in another city, learned a new stack, ran around the lake every morning when the air was still wet and blue. Almost 2 years, that's how long it took to feel like my feet belonged to my legs again. Then an envelope arrived, heavy paper, fancy gold script. Emily and Mark requested the honor of my presence at their wedding. The audacity forced a laugh out of me so hard I choked. My first instinct was to tear it up, but there was a colder, quieter part of me whispering, "No, this is the room where truth belongs." I started building a record. I dug up screenshots from the day Jacob texted me. I found Mark's Venmo notes to a consultant on nights Emily said she was working late. I pulled the time-stamped Hilton receipt Emily absent-mindedly left in a shoebox under my old bed. Jacob forwarded me a drunk confession Emily texted him months back saying she had tried to stop and didn't. I mapped dates. I made a clean slideshow with captions. I heard Mark's cousin Theo never liked him much. I asked for a favor. Theo worked with the venue's AV vendor and could get me access to the projector and audio if I wanted it. I said yes. There was another layer I didn't expect, the rehearsal dinner. I went to the bar attached to the venue the night before and sat quietly in a corner booth. I watched Mark work the room in his fitted suit, watched Emily glow and cry at the toasts, watched Emily's mother avoid my gaze like it could burn. I listened. I heard Mark brag that truth is flexible. I watched him kiss the maid of honor on the cheek a little too slow. I watched a bridesmaid roll her eyes and mutter that some stories always come due. I paid my bill and walked out into a soft rain thinking, tomorrow is due. The wedding day was a machine of moving parts. White chairs in rows on a cut lawn, a rented arch wrapped in late spring flowers, a portable bar under a sailcloth tent, a string duet warming up inside the hall. I wore a charcoal suit, the one I bought for interviews when I decided to start over. People noticed me when I walked in. A hush rolled across the cluster of Mark's old teammates. Emily's father stared straight ahead. Theo gave me the smallest nod. The ceremony moved like a script, processional, promises. Emily's vows shook with tears. She said soul, she said forever, she said best friend. That was the cue. I stood. I am sorry to interrupt, I said, but since we are talking about soulmates, I think everyone here deserves the full story. The lights dimmed, Theo hit play, the screen behind the altar flickered to life, texts, dates, receipts. A photo of two hands tangled outside a hotel. The room exhaled into a gasp so unified I felt it in my chest. Emily's bouquet slipped and hit the floor with a soft smack. Mark's jaw loosened. The officiant whispered, "Oh my God." "Turn it off," Emily screamed, barreling toward me. Mark cut her off and shoved me hard in the chest. My chair skidded back. Something cold and electric snapped in my arms. I shoved back. He threw a fast hook at my head. I got my forearm up in time and felt the bone thud. I stepped in and clipped his jaw with a short right. He stumbled, then dropped low and shot for my waist like we were back in a gym. We crashed into the gift table. A tower of wrapped boxes and ribbons slid to the floor. Someone yelled. Champagne exploded somewhere behind us with a hollow pop. We rolled. He landed two quick jabs into my ribs. I hooked his elbow, pulled him off balance, and got to a knee. He grabbed my jacket lapel and yanked. The seam ripped loud enough to turn heads. I shoved my forearm under his chin and leveraged space stood, and he came with me, still clutching fabric. Jacob sprinted in from the aisle and tried to separate us. A groomsman shouldered Jacob back. Another groomsman tried to hold Mark and took an elbow to the clavicle for his trouble. A bridesmaid screamed. Someone's aunt fainted onto a chair. The DJ yelled into a dead mic for people to stop. The fight widened like a stain. Mark lunged, I sidestepped, and he clipped his shin on a fallen chair. He came up wild, I threw a body shot and he grunted and grabbed my wrist. We were breathing like animals, no choreography, no clean win, sweaty fists, bad footing, desperation. My knuckles stung. His lips split. The taste of copper bloomed. Hands pulled at shoulders from every angle. A woman in a red dress, a bridesmaid I had noticed the night before, the one who rolled her eyes at Mark's charm, slid between two guests and caught my sleeve. "Come on," she said calmly into the storm. "You do not need to bleed for this." She guided me backward through a gap in the crowd while two uncles pinned Mark against a pillar and he still spat my name like a curse. Outside, the air was sea.